How would you like to own your home outright? What would it feel like to never make a mortgage payment ever again? On our Mortgage Free series today, we're going to interview Keith Robinson from Southern California. He and his wife, Rachel, recently paid off their mortgage, and he's here to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Hey, thank you very much, Andy.
Awesome, Keith. Well, tell me why you and Rachel decided to pay off your mortgage in the first place.
It didn't start out as an intentional, hey, let's pay off our mortgage. It started out more as a, hey, I've talked to people and they said if you just throw an extra 50 or $100 to your mortgage every month, you pay your house off like 7 years early and you save like 50 to 70 grand in interest. And I was like, hey, that's that's a lot of money and that's like 7 years off and that's great. And so when we first bought our house together, it was just kind of like, hey, we'll do that. We're going to throw that extra 50 bucks. We're going to throw that extra $100 a month on every month, and we'll just see how it goes. And what ended up happening was as more raises and more money came through, it was just kind of like, well, let's just do a little bit more and a little bit more. And so it didn't come as an intentional thing. I do have to credit Dave Ramsey to it because that was the first person that I ever heard say like, hey, go pay off your house. What are you waiting for? And it's like, well, what am I waiting for? And so with all of those things combined with a huge amount of influences from younger in my life of just listening to people who have done it already and then hearing that direct direction of like, hey, go do this. And it's like, oh, I could do that. Let's do it.
That's incredible, Keith. I love that. So you said something really interesting there. And by the way, I love Dave. Dave's a big fan of him. He helped me get on this track too. You said something really important. You said as we started to get some more money in our lives, we decided to increase the payments towards the mortgage. Not everybody does that. So how did you guys decide not to inflate your lives of better cars, bigger houses, and better clothes versus paying off the mortgage? Why was that something that you thought was good for you and your family?
Part of it again was just the foundation that was laid prior to buying the house. So I've always been interested. I'm the spreadsheet guy. I'm the money guy. And so I've always been interested. I've always been reading articles and doing different things of like, hey, this and this and this. And part of the way that I was able to bring Rachel on board was to say, hey, every single time that we got an increase in pay, look at this increase we got. We got half of it and the other half went over to the principal payments. And so there was never a time where we had to say, hey, we're not going to go eat out this month because we're going to pay extra to the house. It was hey, we're going to go out to eat an extra time this month because we got a cost of living raise. We got something and we're going to go out and celebrate that. But we're also going to take the same amount as we were doing there and put it over here towards the house. And so it was just starting with that basic foundation and moving from there and just knowing like, hey, something came in, not all of it is going to go to fun and some of it's going to go to planning for the future.
That's great. Talk to me about how you started to allude to it a little bit about you getting Rachel on board. Were there some difficult times in the beginning when you said, hey, let's pay off the mortgage, or was she open to it?
Now, she started out with the original fact of, hey, we're going to go do this and we're going to pay extra on the house. She was all on board for. She was like, yeah, sure, we've got an extra 50 bucks. That's you do your money thing and it's fine. I can still go to take care of the things I want to take care of and you're doing your money thing. So you're happy, I'm happy, and it's all good. A little bit of backstory is we decided when we bought the house to buy something that we could afford. And so that also we talked about was we had a couple of goals. One was so that she didn't have to work anymore. Because we wanted to start having kids and we wanted to be able to stay home and have that set up. And one of the things we did is we actually ended up buying about an hour drive away from my work because it is so much cheaper, especially here in Southern California. You mentioned that already. If you get right on the outskirt of town sometimes. And so part of what that was, hey, we're going to buy a little farther away. I'm going to have a little bit of a commute, not bad. But you're going to be able to stay home. And in doing this, hey, you don't have to work, but we're going to take some of this money that's coming in and put it extra here. And so that was all thumbs up, let's go. A little later on, while we progressed through this, we've always paid extra. But about 2 years ago, we said, hey, why don't we sell this house, buy a smaller house, and pay it off outright and just do it right away? Now, that would took a lot more convincing to get her on board.
So was that a rental property or was that just a different home that you were changing to?
That was just it was just another home that we bought. So we sold the first house that we bought. We bought it in 2012,
Mhm.
which another thing was timing. Like part of it is just luck. Like so much of this is just a blessing through like, hey, this happened at the right time. And you know what they say about luck? It's when preparation meets opportunity. So we had the opportunity and we were prepared, but then we just had to all get on board. One of the things that we were able to do, and one of the things I love hearing you talk about in your show, is that we've done a monthly budget meeting, a little monthly budget party for years and years and
Yeah.
years. And that's been huge because we were on the same page and we've always at least had a moment in the month, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, where we were talking about money. And so it was little seeds along the way. And there was some tragedy with some friends that ended up opening the conversation more to like, hey, this is what we could do. And what finally kind of brought her around was like, hey, we'll do it, but I want to do some of the same things that we did in this house as a renovation to do it. And it's like, let's do it. We'll put in the floors you like. We'll paint the cupboards in the kitchen so it looks amazing for you, and we'll go from there. And so that was the kind of the big turning point of like, hey, we could do this. We can find a space that we love and go from there.
I love that compromise. That's a great way to figure out the way that it could, help hit your goals and your family goals as a collective to help her to stay at home, but then also, make sure she's happy with the decisions and where you guys are
Yes.
living, right? Absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of the details. You said Southern
Okay.
California. That is quite expensive, right? So we're talking about that area. You said 45 minutes to an hour out. Is that what you said for
Correct.
drive? Yeah. So that's a smart move, but still Southern California. So how much was your mortgage and just a general value of the house, if you could help us with some of those numbers?
Okay, so we bought it in 2012 for 270,000, which was a great deal. I like hindsight, I would have bought a couple more and gone from there. But hey, that's okay. We're gonna live today and make the most of today.
Excellent. And then what kind of mortgage did you get, and how much was the principal on the mortgage when you started?
So the principal, I believe, was 216. So we did exactly 20% down. So it was a $216,000 mortgage and a 2.95 percentage interest rate, and it was a 30-year term when we got it.
Got it. That makes sense. So you got the 30-year, you got a really great rate, and you're buying in Southern California for a steal of a deal. That's
Yes.
incredible. So how long from 2012 to today did it take you to pay it off, or when did you pay it off? I
Okay,
guess I'll ask you
so
that.
so that first house that we bought,
Hmm.
it took us 6.5 years to get into a paid for house, and it wasn't that house. So in 2018, we sold that house for $430,000,
Wow.
leaving us with an added value of 160. But I had already paid it down to about 150. So we had about $280,000 to play with. Now, when we bought that house in 2012, it was far bigger than we needed, and it it was about 3,000 square feet, and so it was a huge house. And then getting used to it, we didn't need 3,000 square feet. We take up about 500 square feet while we're sitting in the living room. Like we're not big people.
Right.
We don't need
Right.
a lot of space. And so we decided like, hey, let's find something that would fit. And we cut half the square footage down. So we sold that. We found the house that we're in now that we paid off for $300,000, but it did need some work. We ended up getting about $30,000 worth of renovations done to it while right before we moved in. So we had the 280 to put in, ended up with the house and the refi, $330,000 to get into this one. So we had about $50,000 left to pay off at the beginning of 2018.
That's incredible. So you used the profits from the home that you bought, if I get the story right, that you bought in 2012 to buy a new home or a new to you home,
Correct.
and that helped you just to clobber the principal and just have very little to pay off to begin
That's
with. Is that
right.
right? And then okay, so
Right.
you had $50,000 left on your balance essentially when you got the home. Is that right?
That's right.
Well, how long did it take you to pay $50,000 with that intensity you guys had?
Okay. Now this ended up being a lot of fun. I wanted to do it within a year, so that should have been from February to February. But we were coming up on our 10th anniversary. And to do that, I realized, hey, we need to set aside some cash to pay for this trip we want to do. We already found that Grandma and Grandma were going to take care of our son, and we were going to be able to do an international trip, just the two of us. And we were so excited. And that also ended up being part of the celebration of doing all of this. But I wanted to have some of the money saved up for that first. So I spread it out, and a little bit nerdy, but I also wanted to celebrate with all of America. So I said, we're going to pay this off July 4th, Independence Day of 2019. And that's exactly what we did. And
That
it
is
even gets a little
great.
bit more fun because I even planned it out to where the balance would be 1776. Of
I
course,
love it.
July 1st hit, and they did that like tiny bit of interest that knocked it up to a couple bucks, and it was just off, and I just missed it. But it was a great time, and we had a lot. I
Oh.
had a lot of fun
So
with it.
1775. They were at least planning maybe around
They
then to,
were, yeah, they were at least knew what they were gonna do. Yeah,
That is
the
great.
right ballpark.
I
Yeah, so
love
it was a
that,
lot of
man.
fun. But we
Oh.
did it. We got to pay it off. Now the bank has it registered as the 5th because it's the holiday, and that's fine. I know that I pressed the button on the computer on the July 4th, and within moments, actually, great story of pressing that submit button, I see our light above our dining room table start shaking. We're having a California earthquake, July 4th, right as we're paying off this house. The whole world's celebrating and shaking with us. So everything turned out fine, and it was a little bit rattling, but
Oh,
it was an interesting experience with that.
that is incredible. What a story. I love that planning. And so now you guys have no mortgage. You went on a great 10-year anniversary internet. Where did you guys go for your trip?
So we went to London. We
Awesome.
spent the entire 10 days in England.
That's
So I had a
incredible.
great time just celebrating together, celebrating our marriage, celebrating paying off the house.